Order. Steve, we do have a new agenda, which I emailed to you.
All right,
An hour ago, so, it doesn't have much of a change, it just adds Brian basically to the agenda.
okay,
Okay, so I'll call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum. We want to first approve the minutes from the the 4/14/25 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move
so
to,
moved.
Second.
Dareth moved and Linda seconded. And do we have any discussion, any questions, comments on the minutes? Brian? You're not on the committee, but I'll speak for Brian. Hey, Bill. There is one error in the minutes, and that is that, David Sessions had already resigned. And he's listed here as absent. That's true. However, he wasn't supposed to be at the meeting because he'd already resigned. So that's an error in the minutes, correct?
What about JT? Are we?
JT, yes, JT, they informed me that he is not gonna be on the committee anymore.
Not.
I mean, I'm not surprised. This is the busiest time of year and most of the, the health center's done and we're working on the other stuff pretty diligently. So today we're not gonna discuss adding a new member, and we should talk about whether we wanna do that or not. Okay, so we still have discussion of the minutes. Do we have any other discussion of the minutes? Okay, okay, let's vote on to approving the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, we have to
Aye.
have a verbal, I'm sorry, we have to have a verbal, go around verbally, so I'll call on each of you. And that's because Steve is on Zoom. So first I'll start with you, Steve.
Aye,
Bill,
Aye.
Pete,
Aye.
Lauren, I, Linda,
Aye.
and Derek.
Aye.
All right, all in favor, motion passes. Okay, and now we have the revised agenda, which everybody should have a copy of. If you want to do a quick scan to see if you have the correct one. The new revised agenda has a number 6 adjourned instead of 5 adjourned. So take a look at your agenda. It should have a 5 at the bottom, or the page, 6 at the bottom of the page. Okay, so now the update on the municipal building project. I want to start with the health center opening and just have a moment of, I guess I would say, a celebration and appreciation of the work that's been done. And I asked Linda if she would just say a word or two about the opening. And
Well, the openings, we actually had 2. And the first was on June 19th, and that was really for the community, and that was by far the biggest one. And then there was another one on July 12th for pretty much summer arrivals. And we had at the June 19th, we had estimated between 80 and 100 people. And then many fewer than that in July. But I think they were jolly events. I think they were very upbeat. And one of the key reasons was Dory's idea, which was to have food. And people loved the food, and Island Market did a wonderful job. And that just made it more of a party than it might have been. So that was fun. And the speeches were brief and fine. And I think it all went well.
does anybody else want to add anything that was there, that attended? Bill, you were there. Did you want to add anything?
It was a really well organized and fun event.
Yeah,
Good.
and at least 2 people got Superman and Wonder Woman statues for their work.
We did.
Pete and Linda.
Thank you
Very well done.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah. I want you to know that I made another, Pete knows this, I made another Superman statue for Mark Olet. And when he came for his punch list, I gave it to him. Oh. Okay, so moving on, we have Pete Anderson to talk a little bit about the punch list for the health center.
Yeah, Pete McPherson has been out a couple of times with painters and plumbers and electricians and working through the punch list. They got a lot of it done. There's still a few things the doors. Issues with the doors, they're gonna take a little bit more time than. Having trouble getting the door people back out here. But that should happen in the next couple of weeks. What I'm running into is we should probably actually be having 3 punch lists, one for Ledgewood. One for anything that Midmark had done that we need to have resolved, and one for anything that is new. It wasn't in the plan, wasn't specified, it's just things that. Either the health center wants added to the list or. So I'm gonna try to work through with Pete McPherson when he gets back from vacation. A breakdown of the punch list. Hopefully we'll have a better understanding of what's left to be done.
Any questions or comments? For the punch list? Okay. Then I wanted to talk briefly, just remind people that we do have a congressionally, what was it called?
Designated spending.
Yeah, congressionally designated spending grant. That was written by Pressica Brazier and that actually at this point, primarily Brian is administering. He's the one who's communicating with the feds, putting in invoices, submitting invoices. And dodging their questions, no, answering their questions. So that's been, we started off with the help of Jen Hayden, who many of you know is a just consummate grant writer. I mean, she's just amazing. And she stepped in, volunteered for, I think, the first 2 months, right, Janet? And then got paid for, I think, a month or something like that, or a month and a half. But she was the grant manager day to day. So she would be working with Brian, looking at what the invoices were being submitted, making sure that they were submitted properly, and they would come, the invoices would come from Beth and Dory and Paige and
That's pretty much it.
myself and a couple other people. So that's basically, it was $845,000, the total. And the purpose of the grant was basically to provide equipment for the health center because it was never fully equipped. And many of the things needed to be updated. And so the grant allowed them to do that. And Cressica had also put in some funding in the grant for things like rooftop solar. And that is going forward. EV chargers, and that is going forward. So that funding has been used, and I've asked Brian if he would talk a little bit about where we are in spending down the $845,000. And I just want to add, I don't know if you were going to say something along the same lines, Brian, but we were really afraid because it looked like grants, especially in Maine, were being federal grants were being shut down and the money taken away. So we moved quickly. Brian was brilliant in the work he did with Jen, and we got things moving very quickly. Beth and Dory were amazing. When the grant was written, I'll just add this footnote, when the grant was being written, Cressica needed, I took an $845,000 budget, right? In, I think it was one day, Dory came up with 200 items. That means the item and the pricing and the code and all the stuff that had to be in the grant. So the team over there has just been amazing. And if you run into them, just give them a high five and tell them how brilliant they were. So do you want to say a little bit about the budget, sir?
Sure, so we've spent that grant specifically down, and there's about 87,000 remaining out of the original 845. Some of that were items that we had to shift around a bit. The original ground mount solar array required the whole reviews and environmental impact studies and things like that. That actually had to be taken out of the grant so that we could receive the grant without jumping through all those hurdles. And then we were able to recoup some of the things that we took out of the scope of the GMP scope of construction. So the giant generator that's out there, the heating and ventilation that was installed over there, both the baseboard and the heat pumps, the millwork, the cabinetry, all of that stuff that had to be built, all of that was covered by grant funds. So we didn't have to spend down bond funds for that, which saves some bond funds to potentially go back and revisit that ground mount solar array and maybe get that in place. Take their energy bill down to zero like we have here most months when it's not covered in snow. And then it looks like we may have some money left after everything is said and done. Now, having said that, the brand new building apparently needs changes and additions now that were not originally in the scope of construction, and that is going to eat up some of these remaining bond funds. We really won't know precisely how much we have left until everything shakes out, because this first leg of the project is not even completed yet. We've still got pending invoices that haven't, they're going to be paid. They're in the warrant for next week, but they're not accounted for yet in the scope of things. So yeah, it looks like we should have some left over. How much that remains to be, not sure yet. Both the renovation and the Elk Island Public Safety Garage project. Oh wait, I'm skipping ahead. I'm sorry. I'll talk about those in a minute then when we get on that topic. That covers the majority of what's going on at the health center.
Great. I don't think that most of the items that are recently in the punch list that were not ever thought of or represent a lot of funds. There aren't any big ticket items in that punch list. There's a lot of relatively.
There's potential for it though.
Yeah, doors sticking and locks being changed and things like that are not prohibitively expensive. Apparently there's some issue with water coming into the apartment door, and maybe the apartment door now needs an awning over it to protect it from water. Not sure yet, but just saying that those things are potentially coming up, which will eat into those excess funds that I worked so hard to generate.
Thank you all.
Yeah, it really, we don't have to applaud, but we could definitely have on its back. Yeah, I think that's, we've been cautious all the way through and not promising things that we didn't have the funding absolutely for. And we're gonna continue to do that. It's been the right way to move forward, and we're gonna have to do it that way, because we can only spend money we know we have. We cannot do anything other than that, so everybody knows that. Okay, so the Up Island Public Safety Garage, Steve, you're on.
Okay. Thank you. As I reported to the select board members last meeting, we had a final, quote, final number that came in from the builder. I say final only because then there was a desire to change the backup generator from propane to fuel, which makes sense because propane, delivery is from the lower South 40, and the fuel is about 100 yards away if there's a prolonged outage. So it was the right thing to do. So I will be getting, last week I asked Mark to get that, finalized and get that back to me. And then we said that we're not making any other changes. We're going to get the contract signed, but there can be updates and changes based on, just putting in a change order for whatever the requirement is, and we agree to it. But so the motion went to the select board to allow us to move forward with the contract for an amount not to exceed $430,000. And that vote was unanimously approved it. And so we're moving forward because we were informed that the change of the backup generator would be no more than, $15,000, and we had 414, so we're, right at that number, probably with a few thousand left over. So we're working to get the final contract or numbers, and then we're going to have the contract, and the contract needs to include the deliverables and the payments that align with that, which is the only thing that's going to take some work on that. Now, I also understand Brian has been hiding information. And so I shouldn't say that in a meeting. Brian has some additional information that he'd like to talk about regarding an improvement on the Up Island facility that can be put in as a change order.
Oh, you're talking about well and septic?
Yes.
Or we're talking about, okay. Yeah, so I understand there is the desire for well and septic on the Up Island Public Safety Garage, and I don't disagree with the desire, especially future proofing it for further, improvements in the future. As well as it is less costly to do this initially than to go and try to retrofit a system back into an existing building. So it will cost us less to put that in while the building is being constructed than it would to come back and try to retrofit it. So in that situation, I also agree. Based on the numbers that we know so far, it looks like we will have the ability to afford that. Having said that, before anybody runs to anyone else and says, Brian promised us we're gonna have a well and septic in the Up Island Public Safety Garage. Not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is based on the numbers that we have, the information that we know, the expenses that we're expecting, as well as some of the other unexpected expenses that we're still expecting.
Say no.
It does look like we will have the money to do that. So that's where we are now. Now, as things could shake out differently, something could balloon, something could, anything could happen. But as the numbers look right now, it looks like we can put in well and septic in the Up Island Public Safety Garage.
Good.
That's the most cautious yet optimistic report I've heard in a long time. Well done, well done. But
Brian, the word you're looking for is conceivable.
Yeah.
It could happen.
it is considerable. So we're still with you, Steve. Did you have anything else on the Up Island Public Safety Garage?
Other than my goal is to have a really final number by next Wednesday's meeting, moving immediately to a contract, working with Janet and whoever. Because as I said, I think the challenge, which is not a large challenge, but one is the builder is not a large organization. They want to have biweekly payments. And so we told them that, that can be done, but we need to have them based on deliverables that they're providing. So we're going to need to do that alignment of deliverables and what's that value to pay done pretty soon. I mean, that'll be and then once that's done, we can go to start looking at what the long tentpoles are in the construction schedule. Obviously ground preparation and that type of thing. Same time working with Brian on the adding on the septic and water, the well, if in fact, that his information is accurate and he still feels comfortable with that. So that's it for me.
Great,
The question,
please.
you mean about adding the well and the septic, I would think you won't know until the end of the project how much money there's gonna be left
That's correct. We won't know any of that for sure, but this is all beginning before we hit the end of the project, so we kind of have to plan and plan carefully, absorb all of the information that's out there and make our best decisions.
Cause I heard someone mention perhaps that the well and the septic should go in before any groundwork, which I wouldn't agree with, but.
I've
I
never put
didn't-
in a septic system before, so yeah, I have no opinion on that.
Yeah, and I didn't say that. I mean, if that's what,
Very little to put that.
Yeah,
So it's probably not.
And you're.
Yeah, um, actually, let Pete say, but my understanding is, as we were moving along with the architect, we put everything in place so that if we could get a well and septic, if we had the funding, we're ready to go. But you still have, if you're gonna do a well and septic, it's still good to have heavy equipment back there, and if we've already got heavy equipment to put up the building, it might be timely to do the well and septic along the same timeline, ideally. That's what you were saying.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we are gonna lose Steve because, hallelujah, Steve has agreed to, take the lead on the renovation for the municipal building committee as well. So we have, he's joined as of the last meeting, I think, the municipal building committee, and he's also on the select board. So instead of me being municipal building committee and select board, it's Steve as municipal building committee member and select board member, and that's really strengthens our committee quite a bit. Pete and I were talking together with Steve about the renovation and saying that there's an awful lot on Pete's lap, and I'm still working with the grant. So it'd be great if we could find somebody to take the lead on it, and Steve offered to do it. So I think,
that's,
yay, Steve, yay.
I'm not sure that's exactly, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so, but we do need to have the committee approve that appointment, so,
I'll make that motion.
Pete's made the motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Bill seconded, any
Thanks, Bill.
discussion? Any discussion? All in favor, we're going to do a round with the vote, Steve, are you voting in favor of your own nomination?
Aye.
Okay, Bill,
Aye.
Pete,
Aye.
Lauren, I, Linda?
Aye.
There's aye. It's unanimous. Thank you so much, Steve.
Yes.
And therefore, Steve, the renovation.
Well, yeah, I actually accepted this because of what a great group already has been brought together. I mean, it's almost like the knowledge and the knowledge transfer capabilities and whatever you guys have all brought together is remarkable. So it's really an honor to be asked to work with you guys on this. We met, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, all right. So 2 weeks ago, we discussed, I was given quite a bit of paperwork to review. And then we did a walkthrough of the facility to get up to allow me to kind of visualize because I hadn't been in that area yet. So that was good. We looked at the main component. We have a set amount of dollars right now that's dedicated to this, which is to what I've been informed is to get those offices painted, refloored, either a hardwood or carpet or whatever, maybe what the new health center uses. That's, but point is get those set up and operational so we can put, our key people in those offices and have it be functional for them. Is it appropriate to talk about the dollar amount or not? I want to make sure I don't step on.
We, the total that was, through the bond process, the total that was appointed specifically for the, renovation was $100,000.
Okay.
It's worth more than that now.
It's worth, thanks to Brian again, there's more in that account than $100,000. Do you have
We're not
exact-
talking about Brian, that's how usually.
Yeah, we're talking about Steve now. Yeah,
So-
it's just over 101,000. I think it's 101,450, something like that. Yeah, and we've spent almost none of it. So I mean that is what's actually in there right now.
Yep. So that's why I communicated to Michael and Laura yesterday in an email with Pete and Lauren also, just to kind of try to make sure I'm understanding what discussions are going on regarding this. We have a finite amount of money and it's dedicated for those offices at this point. So there's been talk of, can we do some other things with that? So I think, what we need to do is just see how quickly we can get those get the right talent to come in and work on those offices, and then build out. In my mind, we would want to build out a secondary priority list that that it's almost like a wish list that people can put together. Primarily Fred and Mert and Carrie, you get to throw in your things as well there. But the point is to determine what would be follow up on if we had any money left over from that 100,000. So I don't know if people agree with that, but that's a suggestion I would have, and I'd like some feedback on that and any other ideas that you have.
Steve, there's one caveat, and that is my error in not getting this clearly to you, but we did bring in, thanks to Laura and Michael, we did bring in a structural engineer and someone who also could advise us on ADA, appropriate entrances, etc. And there's some things that we do have to spend money on right in the get-go to make sure we meet those standards. So
Okay.
I know Laura and Michael can update you on that as well. And that's my error in that, making that clear that was a big part of this first expenditure had to be, addressing those problems.
Okay, that's great. So I'm back. I come back Friday night. I'll be in next week. So Michael and Laura, I'll reach out to you via email to see when you have some time that we could have a Zoom call or whatever to go through that. But I also
Actually, if you
what-
come to our house, I'll get you that travel
Ooh.
dip again.
I'm there.
Make it easy.
But I do think we need to, and maybe this has already been done. Is there a priority of this?
I could probably address that pretty quickly. We spent considerable time with Merton, with Fred, to understand what the expectations, the wish list, if you will,
Yeah.
of what needed to be accomplished in their minds. And also what Michael and I did is set up a set of priorities and phases so that nothing was being done and then ripped up to this. So everything had a logical progression. And I think it's very clear to the entire team that there's a finite amount of money right now. And by breaking it up into smaller pieces, not only does it avoid triggering certain things, like going to a higher cloud of approvals that we try to avoid, but it also opens up the territory for some of our local builders to come in and provide services, hopefully in a more timely and maybe more affordable method. But there is a recognition that the phases are such that phase one will be done. We'll examine the monies that were spent, what remains. Is that appropriate and satisfactory and sufficient for phase two? If so, we progress with phase two. If there's money left over for phase three, then we progress. So it's all been logically laid out, and we've got, which I'll share with you. You probably haven't had access to it before, but we've shared it with the board earlier. That, certain materials will be developed over time. Currently, we have phase one, items on the phase one, which are actually outside of our purview, but it involves changing locks, changing pass codes, Janet has been working to coordinate the painting and carpeting. There's an evidence room that is not satisfactory for the purposes of Fred's requirements, and we have spoken with Ron Gallant to come in and rectify that. Otherwise, the room is not usable in its current condition. But those are very minor structural and or actually more cosmetic elements. So phase one is a relatively small piece. The expectation there should be the bulk of the monies remaining to phase two. So phase two involves getting the new interview room done and the kitchen replacement. On Wednesday of next week, it was my plan to meet with Hammond Lumber. Share the design for the kitchen, which I've reviewed with Mert and Fred already. And try to get a budget for materials. So, trying to beat the clock, so to speak. And we don't know who would be installing that. It could very well continue with Ron Gallant, but there are other individuals on the island who are perfectly capable and may be available to do that. One of the other, and of course, once that is done, then we'll evaluate whether there's monies left for phases 3 and 4, which is the new ADA compliant toilet room with shower capabilities. And of course, a key component of this is developing the space for the Emergency Operations Center, which, because of the nature of all the construction, has been left to the tail end. But there's also going to be a lot of wiring and technical specifications that go along with that. And so it made sense to delay that until the latter stages, so everything else was in place. And of course, that will ultimately provide the space that's necessary for the enhanced training facilities that Fred and Merck have been expressing a desire for. One of the key things, though, and Lauren brought it up, was the introduction of the structural engineer, which we were able to engage since our last meeting. And he was the lucky person who got to go down in the crawl space, Pete Anderson and Michael. And they determined that there were a couple little wonky things down there that needed to be addressed. There's also one unfortunate code non-compliant issue, and that is the location of the oil tank that's under the building. That rather than remove it, we're simply going to no longer use it. It'll be emptied and basically left fallow. But that means a new tank is going to have to be located elsewhere to make up its use. Otherwise, it's definitely something that is contrary to the code. The accessible entrance that you were referring to, that Lauren also alluded to, you may have been thinking it was perhaps the front entrance to the building, which is a rather substantial entry. We're actually looking at the entrance to what is currently the public safety portion of the building, which is the
Right
eastern
by the
side.
fire.
Yeah, right. That's west.
Come out of the budget for this particular project, or because they're more global, do they come from someplace else? Does that budget come from someplace else?
I would think those would be building maintenance budget items and not renovation budget items. At least
I
that's
don't
my
have money
first thought.
for that, though.
Find it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the other problem. We don't have any money budgeted for building maintenance. I mean, we don't have tens of thousands of dollars budgeted for building maintenance. So I'm not sure how much this is gonna cost, but so far it doesn't sound cheap, because those 275 gallon tanks are 15,000, something like that.
Wow.
No.
That thing's-
You mean filled?
Well, I mean, to have it installed, to have pipes run, stuff like that.
Well, yeah,
The tank
as
itself,
luck,
yeah.
as luck would have it. The fuel tank that's in the crawl space now is forward against the parking lot area, and there's a fill over there. And apparently the lines that come out of that tank to serve the heating equipment run all the way across the building, and the heater's way in the back. So the idea of putting the new fuel tank that we looked at is in the back of the firehouse garage area. There's a spot,
Okay,
and it's right next to the heating equipment, right, Mark? Pretty close to the heating equipment. So
There's space for that?
oh, good, so it'll be less expensive.
the
Yeah.
pipe, well, the whole piping thing is probably kind of a minor issue. as well.
Yeah, it'll just be a short run then.
Right, and you know, the only question that I would have is like, how do you fill the damn thing up, you know?
They got long pipes.
Long hose.
Yeah.
Hoses.
The current tank in the garage area is plumbed outside, it's filled,
From the outside.
you know, so.
Okay, so
probably
we-
you could do the same thing.
Steve, you can see we've got some, decisions to be made, some things that must be done related to the structural part of the building, we can't ignore those things. Same with the ADA entrance, that's not something that we can not do, we need to do that. We also have a contract with, Laura and Michael, which was, I believe, $500.
Repavement.
Yeah, and so between what comes out of $100,000 as a part of the renovation project and what comes out of the town budget, that's a decision for Janet and the select board, so that would be something that Steve, perhaps after you get all of the updated information and have estimates, et cetera, you have a kind of a working budget, you can bring that to Janet for a discussion, and then I think probably just to the select board, if there is a decision that has to be made, that's maybe a good discussion between you and Pete and Janet, I'm thinking as the owner representative, you might want to be involved in that.
I think right now, though, we were talking about getting, the next step for that ramp, we need a plan. So that would be the next step for Jesse Nash to, create a,
And he's, as of yesterday, told me you have something to look at by the end of next week.
cause after we have that, we could show it to Jim Nelson. Jim Nelson said, show me when you get the plan, so then we could try to get a price of what that might be going forward, but then decide when to do it.
So Steve, it sounds like next week is gonna be a busy week.
I'm looking forward to it.
As
I have my
always,
whole family coming in from out of town, and I'm taking vacation, so I'll be right there for it. Let me just ask one quick question. I mean, just so I'm clear, because I want the 100,000. I mean, what we contract, or what we don't have a contract yet, but was the decision for that 100,000 exclusively to those four, to the redoing and remodeling or renovating those four offices? I mean, I'm trying to figure where the scope ends that was agreed to, or does it include the ADA ramp, and does it include?
Oh, no.
no, that one,
It was over the whole project. Not specifically to those
right,
offices.
Yeah, when you say the office, I think my understanding of it was it included everything that was former health center square footage
Yes.
being converted into its new use.
Right, yeah.
Since that point in time, recently, the ADA thing has been kind of discovered and added on.
Yeah.
Or not even added on, just identified as something that you need to do.
Yeah.
The structural remediations in the crawl space, likewise, no one knew that there were missing posts and things along those lines down there. Cause no one had gone down there, so that's a new piece of information. And the fuel tank is similarly a new piece of information, so no one would have known about those things.
Yeah. Okay. No, I just want to make sure I just understood what everyone had agreed to previously, and then I can work from there. So that's good. But I'll look forward to next week. I mean, we really do need to move this along.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I know I speak for the municipal building committee that 3.5, 4 years ago, we decided to come forward and take to the town to support both the new health center and the Up Island Public Safety Garage and the renovation, and the amounts of money at that time you know, I think it's fair to say that, you know, the construction world has changed radically. So those numbers are no longer good numbers, but they are the numbers that the town approves. So that is where we are at with the funding.
Yeah.
And having said that, you know, we're gonna go just as far and do as much as we possibly can. And as far as this committee is concerned, if there's any other way that we can go as far as needed to get that renovation, the way that it should be for a training center to honor the work that these two guys have been doing for the town, we're gonna get there as fast and as strongly as we possibly can.
Great, yeah, I mean, that's the right attitude from my perspective, yeah. Great. So that's all I have on this.
Thank
very-
you again, Steve.
Yeah.
We have another Superman waiting in. Okay, well, do we have any other comments? And Laura and Michael, did you want to do actually more of a presentation, or do you think we've covered it for now? And,
Well, we haven't done anything new since the last time we showed you all the stuff,
Okay.
so.
okay,
I think, you know, unfortunately, we were a little hamstrung because the health center had not been vacated and we still need to do a lot of measuring and confirming, making sure that the space that we think is there really is there.
yeah,
But once they get all their equipment and stuff out of the way, then we can take our tape measure and start crafting some drawings and getting better budgets.
yeah,
That said, we did meet with Ron. And my understanding from what Laura told me earlier today is he's got a price that's almost put together and it's coming to you.
we'll definitely need to, go ahead, I'm sorry. Yeah, I wasn't to him yet, yeah. But yeah, they'll get that sorted. I was gonna say something else, but I'll just go to Fred.
I just wanted to say that since these good folks came on board, everything fell together and started taking shape, and it's easier when you have people that are dedicated to a project, which makes it easier for us, because then we understand what they're trying to tell us and what they showed us in the plans. So it made it so much easier for us. In that being said, when we realized that Janet was gonna, and thank God Janet has been doing all this, was gonna bring in a painting contractor and then the carpeting. It helped us for planning at that point, because we was afraid we was gonna be doing all this in July. July is the busiest month of the year for us. So at that point, we said, all right, we got the month of July off from worrying about anything, because it's gonna be a while before anybody comes in. So I just wanna thank everybody for their planning and, I have nothing but good things to say, and I'm grateful for everything that everybody's done.
Thank you so
Great.
much, Fred. And you took the words right out of my mouth. I wanted to thank Laura and Michael again for moving this forward and all the great work you've done. Now the coordination to make sure we can help with, you know, completing the project and ideally getting more funding, so.
And Janet, because Janet went right from the beginning, she badgered me about my locks because she would lose touch with me every once in a while, but she was persistent. Because locks were a big part of this, and also the painting, because I'd actually planned on coming in and painting rooms myself. Just to be able to save everybody money, and I know that Carrie said she was gonna help out front, and so I mean, Janet put this all together and it put us all at rest knowing that. Cause we knew Janet would get something done, and I just wanna thank Janet.
All right, and Brian, well, remember Brian, I know he
Well,
did
we've all
something.
celebrated, right?
It's kind of getting too big.
Digging out, have you seen this thing?
Hey,
All right, so if there's no other comments or questions, do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. There's a second, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Great job. Thanks, Lauren.
Jesse, or do you want me to?
They never really-
Oh, he's doing it, I'm sorry.
So,